One of Maine's most respected leaders has died. David Flanagan, best known as the former president and recently executive chairman of Central Maine Power, passed away today after fighting pancreatic cancer.
News Center Maine's Don Kerrigan knew Flanagan well and reports on his life's work helping Maine.
It was winter when many of us first knew David Flanagan. The ice storm of 1998, when he led Central Maine Power through the disaster recovery that made him and the company local heroes. Flanagan was president of CMP for only 6 years, but his imprint on the company and on Maine were huge.
All over Maine, you started hearing this cracking noise as branches and lines came down.
By then, Flanagan had already made a name for himself. He started life in Bangor, graduated high school in Portland, then Harvard, then Boston College Law, and an early job in politics where he met Joe Brennan. And when Brennan became governor, he hired Flanagan as chief legal counsel. Both told the story for the Irish Heritage Center 3 years ago.
And Brennan called me up and he said, I'd like you to come up there. And I said, well, things are looking pretty good here. And he said, listen, I'm opening a store on January 5th and I need somebody behind the cash register.
I was so pleased that he came because, as I say, in lieu of having encyclopedias, he was right there. There wasn't a thing he didn't know a lot about except sports.
Flanagan would later join CMP as a lawyer and eventually became CEO, where before the ice storm, he led the company's first turnaround, including a new public image with lineman Jim Wright.
With the tagline, "No line is safe to touch ever." And that not only was good for favorability, the number of accidents also went down.
He later joined the University of Maine System Trustees and became its chairman. Then in 2005, Senator Susan Collins called Flanagan to Washington to help lead the investigation into Hurricane Katrina.
I think of David as the go-to person whenever there's a crisis or a very difficult problem where you need a strong leader. He always would step up to the challenge.
Back in Maine, he was called up for another turnaround, this time the University of Southern Maine.
The university was approximately $17 million in the hole.
Tony Payne has known David Flanagan since he was a kid and was a member of the USM Board of Visitors.
I don't think that anybody could have done the job that David did because the work that needed to be done was so difficult and so painful. And he understood that. He said, I'm not coming in to make friends. I'm going to be there for the time that it takes to get the university on a good, solid financial path.
Which he did. After 1 year as president, Flanagan had made a lot of changes and won a lot of admirers. More volunteer work followed, and then, just last year, came the call for one more turnaround, Central Maine Power.
You were kind of a happily retired guy, I think. And suddenly now you're back to working 7 days a week. What's that like?
Well, my wife isn't so damn pleased about that, but it's very fulfilling to be working on something that's important to people here in Maine.
Trying to rescue his old company from itself, the billing problems, poor storm recovery, and lots of angry customers.
We didn't have the people in the call centers we needed. We didn't have the personnel to look at the bills and make sure they are accurate. We didn't have training.
Flanagan tackled those problems with his trademark hard work and decision-making and a willingness to be upfront about the problems.
You know me. I'm willing to admit things that we did wrong, things that we could have done better, and to talk about the things we're doing to improve them now, in the past, and in the future. If nothing else, at least I'll be candid.
And he always was. Honest, straightforward, his friends say, willing to use his immense talents to take the heat, do the hard work, the long hours to make things better for the business, the university, and for his state. Because in all those jobs, all those volunteer roles, David Flanagan was always one of us, a Mainer, and one of the best. Don Kerrigan, News Center, Maine.
David Flanagan was also deeply involved with a range of nonprofit and charitable groups, including the Harold Alfond Foundation.
And earlier this week, the foundation announced a major grant to the Children's Center in Augusta, an early education center for kids with special needs. The foundation says that center has long been an important cause for David Flanagan and his wife Kay, and the grant will help to expand the center and its work. News Center, Maine. We'll be right back.